we as human beings need to understand ourselves. We need to understand what we are. So what seems to be going on after I've contemplated it for many years is an experience, an ongoing experience on multiple levels. Even though we have to have a technique of unifying everything and not dividing, and just seeing ourselves, not just the self, but all of the people, all the group, everything around us as one, even though that is a technique, when it comes down to it, understanding comes from the proper knowledge of the structure. And the structure includes the levels that I'm going to give you right now. There's 3 basic divisions of this human experience, and it has to do with spiritual, mental, and physical. And there are in-between stages or overlapping areas. And one of them could be said to be emotional, another one could be astral, another one could be soul. But we'll get into those terms in just a little bit. The 3 major levels can be related to the physical properties of science, in the science terminology: solid, liquid, and gas, or vapor, air. Because one of them is more solid and more dense, and then the opposite side is totally like undense, like very expansive and light. However, even though those 3 levels can be compared, they're not the same, because the 3 levels of solid, liquid, and gas are really just a part of the first one, which is physical. Those are all physical. So there's a physical side of people that includes the mixture of all those atomic, material phenomena. That is a substance. They're atoms. And atoms have different configuration. There's the simple ones: hydrogen, helium. Can you be a little bit quiet for a second? Hydrogen, helium, and then heavier, like heavy metals and rocks and stuff that's compressed, and complex crystalline structures and such. But what about the mental? See, the mental doesn't have any side of that. But as humans, we have that mental level. We have a mental body. It can't be found by looking around with any physical tool, physical measurement. It can't be found. But we use our voice and we use the language to make a stream of words, a linear stream of words that comes from our speaking and our writing. And this is emanating, it's coming from the mental body that we are. And I can only go like this just as an illusion. The mental body is nowhere, but it can center out of the physical body. It uses the physical body to make itself known, to communicate. However, that mental body can go everywhere. I can send out a piece of it. You just got it where you are right now. See, that's the hardcore example. That's tangible. Right where you are right now. Whatever name of the place it is, Timbuktu, or you're at the North Pole, it doesn't matter. You're getting a version which comes from my mental body. And you're seeing it, you see the visual as the form of my physical body on the camera, but it is my mental body, the message that you're getting. You're taking that into your brain through your ears and your eyes and mostly your ears and your eyes, and you're processing that into your own mental body. So you are meeting with my mental body. Your mental body, wherever you are physically, somehow through words and the message are getting my mental body. You're incorporating that. Now, it's not a scary thing. It's just like, that's how we connect. That's our connection. It's our mental connection. I always talk about we need to ground ourselves as a community and meet in the physical and have physical connection. Handshake, hugging, feet washing, all that kind of stuff. A kiss on the cheek, that's what Jesus used to do. That was the greeting among the brethren. But in any case, it doesn't matter what it is, gesture-wise or culturally. It's a physical meeting in the same location. None of us are in the same location right now. But mental location? Yes, we are. If you get my message, mentally we're together in that mental level. We have connected. Okay, so now let's talk about the higher level, which has its own capabilities and its own description, its own properties, its own understanding. It's called spiritual. The spiritual is something that people don't really believe in because it's so far-fetched. It's even beyond the mental. It can hardly be expressed. It tends to be the highest form of our most complex, most cherished and important messages would be considered spiritual. And it comes from our spiritual body. And what is that? It is not just the mind. It is not talking about the physical world. It is talking about the highest, most cosmic ideas or concepts. The spirit exists beyond everything else. It cannot die. So you're going up to these levels, and the third level, the higher level, the spiritual level, is the most powerful. Because I just said, it can't die. It changes form. It changes its mental body and then its physical body. Physical body is the one that seems to have the most problems. It's subject to erosion, chaos, death, whatever else. The mental body is not so much because it can preserve through that, but it does have mortality issues. Now, how does all this happen? How do I know that these things have their different natures? How do I separate these levels? Well, let me describe for you the process of life and death that I have contemplated and I've come to believe. And it started when I was really a child, and then I continued to study from different belief systems and religions, and other people giving me their personal experiences, sharing and discussing even all-out debates about these things. So life's beginning is with a body. A baby is born from the union, even if it's just for an instant, of the male and the female. And their bodies come together, but also their minds are in love at that very instant. Even in rape, it seems like a violent act, but there's love, because a man wants to be with a woman, or vice versa. They want to be together. So in that moment, they just get together somehow. And the sperm joins with the egg. So life is sparked from that union. And the growth is usually around 9 months, 8.5 months, 9 months. And from this growth, a body is created where the mind starts to form and the spirit starts to come together with it. Apparently what happens is the spirit comes to that body, it's watching it, it's making a final decision, and it can go through the process of entering that body within the first few months of the creation of the body, when the body is ready to join with the individual spirit. It is not the spirit of the man and the woman who's the mother holding it. It is not. It's an individual spirit that's coming from another life that it just had, a past life. So the reincarnation process happens every time there's conception and the spirit goes into the fetus. Now, when the birth happens, the new individual is an infant that's going to be, the newborn infant in the world, and it is, I want to say complete, but it's always developing, so there's nothing complete, there's nothing finished yet. It comes out with its mental body starting to form and starting to do its thinking and have all of its questions and take in the world through its senses. And also the spirit is there that has created that whole thing. You see, like if the physical body comes out and there's a baby without a spirit, then number one, there's not going to be any mind. Number two, there's not going to be any emotions or anything. And the physical body is not going to live. That the body of the baby will basically deteriorate. It'll just fall apart. It cannot continue. What makes the life continue or perpetuate or grow or become an adult, such as myself and all of you, it is the spirit within us that is the driving force. It is the motivator. It is the creator. It's what you are. So let me tell you what it actually creates. There's a term called the soul. The spirit creates the soul. This is the best way to use the term soul. People use it in music terminology. People use it to confuse like other things about it, or about saving your soul and this and that. That's true, but we need to first define it properly. The soul is the collection of experiences that the spirit makes in its new life by using the body and the mind that it has. The essence and the collection of experiences are what makes the soul. So your soul has to do with all your experience. If your soul did not experience something, it has no soul about it. It doesn't know how to relate to it. So the soul is the one lifetime spirit. So if you consider that there's multiple lives, that means the spirit has one soul, one soul, one soul. So you count it all up, and it's your number of multiple souls that are connected with that spirit. The spirit collects its souls over time of history. That is how it happens. Souls are what comes out of the body, and it exists apparently, and this is very sketchy, but I tend to really, I resonate with this kind of visualization or this thing, this theory. The soul after the death goes and it becomes like a lick of flame. It's like the eternal flame, or the, when they bury the unknown soldier, and so at the grave, the marker, there's the perpetual flame that they make. So it is a material gadget with the tube and the gas supply. It's not supernatural, but I'm comparing it because the soul has something like that without a machine gadget. It's just they're in a chamber underneath the earth. There may be multiple chambers for all I know, but when the body dies and the soul goes off and the spirit wanders, the soul, which is the whole essence and memory of that lifetime, it is taken to the chamber and it becomes marked or resonating in this perpetual flame. Okay? So this is very fascinating, and I'm not saying that I have any proof for it, but I just have a feeling, like, for a while now, that this is actually what happens to us and the soul. So that means your soul is recorded. Your soul is going to remain there, and it can never be destroyed. However, it cannot be changed. It's not alive. It's not able to make itself better or to make itself worse. It's just a record. It's a memory. It's the shell, in a way. So talking about shells, we can also bring up the idea of ghosts. What are ghosts? Ghosts are memories, ghosts are shells, ghosts are residue of life activity. But because ghosts are pretty much individual, sometimes when a psychic or other people get a flash of seeing something, or a wisp of air or light, or the image of a person, or the rattling of a chain or something, some kind of audio event, like they're clairaudient or clairvoyant. So clair means that they can do this beyond the senses. It's extrasensory, and it's psychic, it's paranormal. And what they're actually getting with that ghost, it's not this soul, the memory. It's just like the memory of the event that they're picking up, because there is the record of that. And hauntings have something to do with these ghosts. But what you want to be careful when you think about ghosts or wherever some place is haunted, is you have to be very careful not to think that that individual is actually there. You can't think that that spirit is there. That's a lie. Okay? In other words, like if someone says, this place is haunted, like the person who died here, they don't want to leave and they're there, that's impossible. Because when we die, we go under absolute force of law. Rule of law in the universe is that your spirit gets taken out of the physical plane. So you, as the eternal individual, you are placed into what the Tibetans call a bardo state, or Catholics can call it purgatory or heaven. And there's different terms of it, but it's basically the afterlife. The spirit has to wander on. You have to move on. And that is an absolute mandatory requirement. I don't see that how it can be modified or superseded, or you get a pass on that, or you get free, you can stay in your old house forever even after your body's in the ground somewhere else. That's ridiculous. So what I want to say that ghosts experiences can actually happen, but we need to understand what it's really about. So the spirit is the most interesting thing, because it gives rise to the idea of what level of the universe that is. Is it like a material? Is it an atom? So the thing is a spirit is a form of energy, and it gets created in the beginning. It's basic life energy, and there's a huge question as to how that relates to individuality, though, because you watching this will tend to believe, and especially if you're solipsist, you will be an individual that is hearing this individual here. So if we agree, we form a collective consciousness, but that is composed or comprised of multiple individuals. So because you're an individual, it means that at that given time, in the now, we exist as a multiplicity. We are collective. But what does that mean, what's going to happen in the future? Like, if I were to die, and if you were to die, and if my other viewers to eventually die, where do we go? Do we continue to be the individual and only come back as an individual? Is it very linear and always distinct and divided that way? Or, here's the really bizarre thing, but it is a valid question to make a hypothesis about. Can the individuals somehow bind together? Can they mix and match parts, components of their spirit, or from their life experience, the soul experience? Can they combine together? Almost like a Frankenstein created monster. Dr. Frankenstein sewing together all this and putting life into it and creating this conglomerate thing. Is that possible? So I've heard that people can be combinations of lives. People can be partial. Part of them comes back, and that as an individual, they're not the same individual that they were in the past. So this would kind of mathematically make sense, because in the Earth's history, we tend to believe the assumption there were less people. So if there was less people, how do we get more people now? Is it just a compilation that everybody just, everybody just staggers the reincarnation they're going to have, and everybody appears all at once? Does that mean that if the total... See, I have to do this mathematically. I'd show you the formulas on paper. It's hard for me to explain. But just pretend, let's just do it in the year 5000 BC and 51, or let's say 4900 BC, 4800 BC, 4700 BC, if they all had 1 million people, and each million people decide to come back now in the modern time, 2014, you would then have the accumulation of all those millions now. So that means the reincarnation rate was slower in the past. That logically, it means between lifetimes, reincarnation to the next lifetime, you would have like a space of like 500 years. But nowadays, you would only have the space of like 2 years or 20 years. It would be much less. That means the rate, if you will, the rate or frequency of incarnation would be a lot quicker. It would be such a higher pace compared to ancient history when there was less people. So you see, like, doing the math, making a mathematical formula could be possible about this without even factoring in the partial individual spirits coming back. Okay, I'm going to have to take a break because there's problems around here.